September Rules Committee meeting to order. Melvina, would you give invocation, please?
Erode galande haujele hellige handeski in ho. Nivna dette dostan heldig så has nolen heskeon hit og has du yuktage ha. Nolen ni have dette dostan the gender nilin chage has negato de dogilamstan. Father, we just thank you for this day. We just thank you for all your blessings. Lord, we just ask you to be with us. Give us wisdom and knowledge, Lord, that we go about our business for the betterment of Turkey Nation. We thank you for everything, Lord, and bless those that are less fortunate, Lord, that we may be there to lend a helping hand. Father, since, Lord, that is your will, that things be done. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, would you do roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Johnny Kidwell. Sasha Black Fox Qualls. Here. Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates.
Here.
Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins. Here. Kevin Easley. Here. Lisa Hall.
Here.
Daryl Legg. Here. Dora Petskowski.
Here.
Cody Poindexter. Joshua Sam. Here. Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith. Here. Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
All right, good deal. If you've had a chance to look at the minutes, could I have a motion, please?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, up first, from the Marshal Service, that is not Shannon Buell, that is Marshal Roach. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well this morning.
All right.
Afternoon, actually.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I don't know if you had a chance to look through the packet or not. It was a busy month for us. The holiday was a big portion of that. Some of the things some of our numbers went down, I guess understandably. We're kind of all consumed there at the front. So we're getting back on track with those housing patrols, trying to get those numbers back up. They were a little low, but kind of spread thin the first of this month. There is a couple of announcements probably buried in here that I was kind of looking at. Justice Services has got a new building that they've leased out there across from Keys High School. And so they're almost up and going. There's some offices out there. They're still trying to get it squared away and making a good home out there. I've been out there a couple of times, and it's really nice. It's going to be helpful. Other than that, I was kind of noticing dispatches, communications here on the Department of Public Safety side. They had around 3,600 calls over the month, and it's just kind of a glimpse as to what all comes into the Marshal Service and gets directed. Sometimes that's other agencies just needing to know if someone's Cherokee or not, or just looking for guidance on where to go with certain things, and some of them are actual police calls. So those numbers don't indicate every call that, that's not a call for service for the marshals necessarily. So we stayed pretty busy, it looks like. South is still a little busier than the north. And I think probably because of the holiday, those numbers are a little bit like that. Do you guys have any questions for me and anything in the packet that I might answer?
Have any questions for Marshal Roach? Danny?
Marshal, I'd like to thank you for Patriot in District 15 that had an incident, and you guys took care of it for us. Wasn't being taken care of any other way other than what you guys did for it. And those folks are really thankful for that, and thank you for coming up there and for doing that for us.
Absolutely, sir. We tend to catch a lot of the strange cases still, to this day. With the cross steps, everybody's used to doing business their normal way. And we have kind of always caught the strange, or maybe sometimes the more important cases or difficult cases. And it still seems to be where we find ourselves most of the time, which is our purpose. We go in there and try to figure out what's the best thing to do and file it wherever we need to. But thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? E.O.?
A couple of months ago, I said something about the people out and about are noticing the new patrol and really like it and everything. And different people are still saying things to me, so it's pretty evident down there. I mean, you can tell. So.
Yes, sir. You're very welcome, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to hire more deputies to get
Those
them out there.
people from the south region, it's the highest because then people from the north come down and visit.
They like the weather down there, I'm sure.
Anybody else? Well, I would just like to say, thank you to you guys, because You know, we had a lot going on, and you definitely had a lot going on, keeping everybody safe. You know, when you talk about inauguration, you know, the Cherokee holiday, all the things that were going on, and you guys were out in force, and, you know, and it was not just for those times. You were there before, and you were there after. It was an all-day deal, all-night deal, so, you know, saw a lot of you at the powwow. So thank you for keeping everybody safe, and, you know, your presence means a lot in that aspect.
Absolutely. Very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Darrell?
So on the report on the overview of current programs offered to tribal inmates and do you know much about that?
I do not.
Okay,
I read
I'll save
over
it for-
that because I looked at that and I was like, well, I don't understand if that's for the inmates to be an administrator of a program. And it mentioned a corrections officer.
Yeah,
I don't know much about
That's
that. I can
fine.
get you the answer.
I will find out next month. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, next up, from the Office of Attorney General, Chad Harshaw.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the council.
Afternoon.
It's my first opportunity to present to this body as Attorney General, so it's my pleasure to be here. We're in the process of, as you know, transitioning, taking over a lot of the litigation that we have in various different jurisdictions, and all of that is going well. Looking forward to continue looking for additional staff members to come in and help support some of our programs, so we hopefully will have some additional postings soon through Human Resources. Of the enormous amount of litigation that we have going, there's two that I'd like to highlight today for the council's awareness, and I think one of these in particular, the one I'll start with, has been reported in months prior, but it's the Stitt v. Treat case. This is a case that involves the motor vehicle and tobacco compacts that we have currently with the state of Oklahoma. And as you may recall, the Oklahoma legislature overrode the governor's veto of legislation extending those two compacts for a period of time. And we appreciate the work of our legislature to accomplish that. Shortly after that override, Governor Stitt filed a lawsuit with the Oklahoma Supreme Court questioning the legislature's ability to override those vetoes and effectuate those compacts. Specifically, that lawsuit was brought against Speaker McCall and Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat, and essentially challenged their authority to enter into compacts with Indian tribes, questioning the legal structure of how they accomplished that through that legislative maneuvering. Governor Stitt seems to think that he alone is the sole authority to negotiate compacts between the states and Indian tribes, and we just know that that's incorrect. The legislature does serve a critical role in compacting. This has an issue that's been litigated before back in our gaming case. There's two cases we refer to as Treat 1 and Treat 2 that were brought before the Oklahoma Supreme Court, where the Cherokee Nation participated in participated in that legal challenge. And the Supreme Court's been clear that that's just, you know, the legislature does have a role, and the governor in and of himself is not the sole authority for compacting. We filed an amicus brief in that case, I believe last week, along with the Chickasaw and the Choctaw Nation. We're not a party to that case, but we certainly do have an interest in that outcome. And we've submitted our legal position to the state of Oklahoma to reaffirm what they've already reaffirmed twice, and that is the nature of the legislature's role in compacting. The Attorney General of Oklahoma has also stepped into that case and expressed a similar view. I think the prevailing view is that, you know, this has already been litigated, but yet again, here we are in litigation to reaffirm what we already know is the case. And we're confident that a favorable outcome is what the law demands in this case, and look forward to getting that wrapped up. We also had another piece of litigation emerge recently, and it's the OCPA lawsuit. You're likely familiar with the OCPA. It's the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs, and it's an organization in Oklahoma that kind of fancies itself as a type of think tank, but among other things, generally espouses pro-Stitt and anti-Native American views around the state. They recently filed a lawsuit that was very similar to what Governor Stitt had filed against the legislature. We're not surprised to see that. We expected they would get involved. I mean, they tend to be pretty active in this narrative, and they have been for some time. It's very similar to those arguments brought by Governor Stitt. There's some technical nuances that they allege with respect to the legislature and the veto override to approve those compacts. We also think this challenge is meritless. It's similar to, like I mentioned, the other treat one, treat two, the other cases that the Supreme Court has squarely taken up on these issues. And we asked the Supreme Court to allow us to offer another amicus brief in that case to outline our legal positions. And the Supreme Court has recently granted that, of course, over the objection of OCPA. They objected to our ability or our interests in offering our comments and generally referred to it as a non-tribal issue and an internal issue with the state. But happy to hear that the Supreme Court maybe saw that differently and allowing us to submit our papers, which we expect to do tomorrow. These two cases that I highlighted are cases, that the governor's position could have serious implications with respect to the Cherokee Nation and Indian country in Oklahoma. These are just examples of this continuous force that we deal with Governor Stitt, and in this case OCPA being complementary to that, to disrupt the sovereignty and the progress of the Cherokee Nation. And we've always, and we have and we always will, push back against that, because we have a record of being successful in doing so, and we look forward to doing that in these cases. And so those are the two cases that I have to highlight, and we'll bring additional updates to this body as they develop. And if there's any questions that anyone has about those two cases or other matters in front of the Attorney General's office, I'd gladly take them.
Does anybody have any questions for General Harshaw? Just like to say thank you. Nothing like coming in and jumping right in the fire, and having to hook up and defend our sovereignty in several different ways. We look forward to working with you, and, we know you're going to do a good job. You have in the past, and we see nothing different coming at you in the future.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's my pleasure to do so.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, next up from FOIA
Speaker?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you're not on,
Do you have a question for A.G. Hart?
okay, you're not on the, I don't see you on, there you are, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. A.G. Harsha, thank you for being here today, and I haven't given you a heads up about this, but I would like to, if you could, to just do a little bit of a summary of where we are with the UKB at this point.
That's a pretty complex situation. I think it would take a fair amount of time to go through some of the nuances and details, which I'd be happy to do in maybe apart from this setting. But we have a number of issues that are UKB related with respect to land into trust applications that have been submitted to the Department of Interior. We've submitted comments and objected to those, and are waiting for a formal response by the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs. As of last week, I sent a formal letter requesting some additional consultation on some of the finer points. And as far as I understand, the department is reviewing internally that topic, which could impact other matters with respect to what the jurisdiction of the UKB is within the Cherokee Nation Reservation. I don't have anything else to share in more detail on those two items, as we're waiting to hear back from the Department of Interior.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, sir. All right, next up from FOIA and GRA, Gwen Terrapin.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you today.
Hey, Gwen.
For our FOIAs and GRAs, we have 28 FOIA requests, no GRAs. We've got approximately 5 outstanding at this time. And I just encourage all of you to go through the new ones, go through and look at any of the past years and see if there's anything you'd like to know about, and I'll be glad to help you with that. And the website's been updated also. And on a personal note, the Indian National Finals Rodeo is coming up. It's going to be the last week of October. And we have approximately, right now we have about 24 Cherokee citizens that have qualified to go. It could be around 30 because we have some that are going to the last chance qualifier out there in Vegas. So we're really proud of that. We have requested sponsorship again for our citizens, and I know how much they appreciate it. And we also have a young lady that's a Cherokee citizen that's a trick rider that INFR is also requesting a sponsorship from CNB for her to come out there and not only represent our tribe, but to also represent herself with her trick riding and everything. She's excellent. She really is. But after that rodeo's over next month, if I have the information, then I'll give you all an update. Otherwise, it'll probably be in November. But we are really proud of them. And as far as I know, we have one citizen that qualifies to be inducted into the INFR Hall of Fame. And as soon as we find out who that is, then I'll let you guys know on that, too.
Are there any questions for Gwen? All right, thank you, ma'am. Good report.
Thank you.
All right, next up from the Tax Commission, Sharon Swepston.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Sharon.
I know you have my report, and as you see, we're just kind of standing level. We've gained a little bit on the motor vehicle. We're at 1.84, so we're not losing anymore. So hopefully we'll just keep, maybe we'll make it by the end of September. We'll get back up there even or a little more. And then on revenue and taxation, we're still almost 19% ahead of what we were last year at this time, and most of that has to do with retail sales at the casinos and the convenience stores and places like that. So also, we have 3 openings right now, I believe, in the tag offices. I think one is at Stillwell, and one is at J, and one is at, let's see, J, Stillwell, Catoosa, I believe. So we have those 3 that are open. We're also losing an employee. I don't know how many of you have had any direct contact with Karen Wall. She has been our director she's been with the Tax Commission for 22 years. She came on board with us, I think, about 2 weeks after we started the tags, the motor, all the tags and all that kind of stuff. She came on with them from that. She had a lot of experience, I think, from the state side when they brought her on. So, but she has been a key player in just about everything we've done. She's seen every tag office open, so she's going to be a loss to us. She was a wealth of information. Teresa Carter, who is the current manager of the tag offices, will be taking her place as the director. So she's also a long-term employee. She hadn't been here quite as long as Karen, but she's been here for a number of years. So, and Karen said, I told her, make sure her phone still works. So, but other than that, that's all I have. I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions for Sharon? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Next up from the Gaming Commission, Janice Purcell.
Good afternoon. I submitted my report, and in my report, I also submitted common acronyms, and these are just to kind of let you identify some gaming terms that we use. And we currently are working on some new licensing regulations that NIGC said that we need to put forth in our 2021 licensing regulations. So we've been working on that, and also upgrades at the casinos, and keeping really busy. Does anyone have questions? Do you?
Anybody have any questions for Janice? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, from Human Resources, Samantha Hendricks.
It's good to see everyone. This
Hey,
time the
Samantha.
mic is on, so I always get up here and the mic's off. Just a reminder about the open interviews. We'll be having them in Tahlequah at the HR office, Human Resources, on the 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th of October. And we will be in Nowata on the 4th, Veneta on the 11th, and Sallisaw on the 25th on our open interviews. Just to give an update, we've seen about 375 applicants since we started this in March, so we've seen a good turnout. We've have over 115 in the hiring process that we've hired over this time. Actually, they're in the hiring process, and then we've had 80 that we've actually hired as of today. We are continuing to work with Career Services as far as to interview program participants and make sure that we get them into the interview phase of our applicants and our positions. Our virtual new employee orientation is now live at all 8 different clinics, so new hires do not have to drive all the way to Tahlequah for orientation. So they can actually do the orientations at the clinics themselves. Even if they're at food distribution, they can go to the clinics and do those interviews. We are implementing a tiered leadership training. We know we've recognized that there's some leadership training we need to focus on with our employees. One is that is a new leadership orientation, just to where you've gone from buddy to boss, so to speak, so we tell them the basics of the leadership, and then we have a leadership engagement program that takes it to that next step, just to try to help with our leaders as far as on not just HR processes, but, how to work with difficult conversations with employees. And this is something that I talked about before. HR, we're partnering with IT and finance to upgrade our workforce management system. It'll go live on October the 10th. This will help with being able for employees to be able to see their benefits, their paycheck stubs, things of that nature. The team has been working a lot of long hours. We haven't had an upgrade in a very, very long time. Just to shout out and say thank you to, the IT team, the finance team, my team. They're working a lot of long hours to get to that October 10th timeframe. So I just wanted to tell them thank you and that they've done an excellent job on that piece. In saying all of that, you have my report, our standard answer. We have my report. If you have any questions, I'll be able to try to answer those.
Does anybody have any questions for Samantha? Dr. Teehee?
I know that it's an extremely competitive job market out there, and I appreciate everything that HR is doing to try to be agile and adaptive in such a competitive market. And so I may be asking a question that may be more speculation, but I'm seeing Cherokee citizens show interest in remote work, and I was wondering if that is. And, I don't need a concrete number or anything, but is that something that we're exploring to try and fill some of these needs with relation to some of these jobs that aren't necessarily frontline that might be able to be made remote?
I think that's something we can definitely explore and, take it from there. I know there's some other things that we're looking at to, not just with the benefits. I mean, we're looking at all aspects of it, not just, how to apply. Of course, you've heard me talk a lot about that piece of it, but also the benefits and, work schedules, things of that nature. So we definitely are looking at all aspects of that piece of it.
Yeah, I know that with the education department, that there is some, with regard to work schedule, there are some individuals who are trying out things like 4-day work weeks, and it seems to be getting a lot of positive responses. And obviously, you can't do remote work as, say, an early childhood ed person, but yeah, I just thought I would ask that question about kind of remote work. I know that I've had some constituents that they have interest in working, but because of various mobility challenges or physical challenges, they're still, immunocompromised, and COVID still is a factor in our workplaces, unfortunately. And so I thought I would ask that question.
Sure. Well, thank you. I should have more to report on that later, so.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate it. And again, I know that, HR is very challenging in terms of just, I think that a lot of people forget that, well over 1 million people passed away from COVID during the pandemic. And there seems to be this attitude that, they think people don't want to work. Well, the reality is we have fewer people who are part of the workforce at some point. And those people who are still in the workforce have various priorities and needs that we have to kind of adapt to and address as we move forward, continuing to deal with the COVID virus and its ongoing mutations. So I appreciate the work that Human Resources does.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I appreciate the time, Chair.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on, old business, none pending, new business. Dora, would you take that, please?
Yes, this is a resolution expressing no confidence in West Snow Fire, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt's Native American liaison, and calling for his resignation for making various public statements against the sovereign interests of the Cherokee Nation, and I put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Now we're going to open it up for Discussion.
Can I be added as a sponsor?
Yes, sir. Joe Deere, too. Melvina, Josh, Poindexter, Candessa. And before we start discussion, I'd have something to say about this situation, and it's No Fire's job working for Governor Stitt is to be a liaison and build bridges. No Fire cannot build bridges when he has attacked not only tribal sovereignty in general, but the sovereignty of Cherokee Nation, the largest tribe in the state. No Fire cannot build relationships with sovereign Indian nations when he claims the McGirt is the biggest threat to Oklahoma and that Cherokee Nation cannot operate its own courts. Those are his own words. No Fire cannot hope to work with Cherokee Nation after spending months falsely accusing us in writing and on video of engaging in child trafficking. How can we work with him when he said in writing in July that Cherokee Nation is controlled by Satan? Those are No Fire's views, and he was proud enough to state them publicly. Governor Stitt had to have known all of this when he appointed No Fire. Governor Stitt chose No Fire not in spite of all of this, but because of this. A yes vote means we join Chief Hoskin, the Intertribal Council of the 5 Civilized Tribes, and the Greater Tulsa Indian Affairs Commission in opposing No Fire. This is not about Cherokee politics. This is not about the last chief's election or even the next one. This is about No Fire's own words and action, and whether based on those words and actions is fit to serve. This is about the council seeing an ongoing threat to our sovereignty and speaking out on it. No Fire is not fit to serve as Native American liaison. Our silence or failure to act at this point would be complicity. We cannot afford to be complicit in this attack against our sovereignty and this insult to the office of Native American liaison. Is there any comments? Okay, we have, Candessa.
Having been seated next to former Counselor No Fire for 2 years, it was not a full 2 years because he was not in attendance, fulfilling his council duties for much of that time. I have had personal conversations with him where he has espoused views that are anti-tribal sovereignty and anti-tribe. I feel very strongly that the appointment of Mr. No Fire to this position is the creation of an echo chamber by Governor Stitt, who seeks no additional dialogue other than his own thoughts on issues relating to tribal sovereignty. I've seen it said somewhere on social media that Custer had his scouts and Stitt has No Fire. So I am heavily in support of this resolution of no confidence regarding Counselor No Fire's appointment as the Native American liaison. Thank you for the time, Chair.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Are there any announcements? All right, our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, October 26th at 1 p.m. Need one more motion.
To adjourn.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned.